Mr. Chu here with Trey Arithmetic. I've been talking about the Pythagorean Theorem in the last several videos I've done. This particular one is a little bit different because every other problem that we've done, they always came out with whole numbers. Now we're going to be rounding non-whole numbered sides. So remember, the Pythagorean Theorem has to be a right triangle where we have two legs that make the right angle that are called A and B, and the hypotenuse, which is the longest side across from the right angle, which is called C, and we have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So if a side ends up not being a whole number whenever you find the square root, you're going to round the length to whatever digit they tell you to. So I am Mr. Chu. I'm on YouTube, so you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mr. Keith Chu. And then I'm on TikTok and Instagram at Mr. Keith Chu. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and follow so that you can learn more math in an easier way. So I always use a calculator, and technology is a big deal, and I use a TI-30X. You could also use a Desmos calculator, which is what I use when I was teaching virtually. In this particular video and in these examples, I'll be using this TI-30X. So here's an example 1. I've got a right triangle. I have two side lengths that intersect to make the right angle, and these two sides are called the legs. That's what I mentioned over here. So we're going to call one of them A and one of them B in our formula. We don't know the right angle, or the across from the right angle side, which is called the hypotenuse. So I just use my formula. Only now it's going to be different than the earlier videos I've done. You still substitute, same exact way. Substitute for the A, I put the 4 in, I'm going to score that. For the B, I put the 5 in, I'm going to score that. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. You add these two together and we get 41 equals C squared. Remember what we do next? You're going to take the square root of both sides. That is the inverse operation you use. And there aren't two numbers multiplied together that give me 41. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. So it's between 6 and 7. I know that. So I take my calculator. Now in this particular calculator, to get the square root, I have to hit the second x squared. Different calculators are different. And I hit 41. It ends up telling me I told you it's between 6 and 7. Ends up being 6.403. And then it goes on and on and on. And so I'll put two little curl marks equaling C. And we're going to round this, and it'll tell you how to round it. Usually it'll say the nearest tenth, hundredth, thousandth. So if it says the nearest tenth, I underline the tenth. And I look to the right and say, is that 5 or bigger? Nope. So it's going to go round to 6.4. And that's about what that equals. So instead of putting an equal sign, I put two little curls, which means that I did round it. And I told you it's between 6 and 7, and I would have told you it was really close to 6.5 if I would have tried to get more close to it. All right, in example 2, I don't have to have the triangles picture. It tells me to find A if I'm given B and C. So I write down the equation and substitute the values in. I don't know what A is, but I do know that B is 5, and I know C is 9. Now I'm going to square both of those. So I have A squared plus 5 squared is 25, 9 squared is 81. I use the subtraction property of equality. This crosses out. So I have A squared equals 56. So then I do what? Take the square root of both sides. I take the square root of a squared and the square root of 56. Square root of a squared is a, and this is going to be a decimal again because there aren't two numbers multiplied together that give me 56. It's between 7, which is 49, and 8, which is 64, and it's really close to the middle again. So I take my handy dandy calculator and I hit the square root of 56. It tells me it's 7.483. And then it goes on and on and on. Now if we're rounding to the nearest tenth, I underline what I'm rounding to. I look to the right. 8 is 5 or above, which means I bump that up to 7.5. So A would equal 7.5. And it's about. And remember, it has to be smaller than 9. In this case, this would be the longest side, and it is. So I'm going to challenge you to try a couple problems on your own. And these would be student practice problems. We'll have 2 of them, and then there'll be a video that you can check and see if you did them right. So, find the missing length using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Round to nearest tenth, because the problem will always tell you where to round it to. Okay? All right. You just have 2. A gives you the triangle. You're finding C. Put that little curve because it's going to be about. And then on example B, these are the student practice problems. It says A is 13, C is 18, B equals what? All right, so try both of these, and then there'll be a link up here in the top that you'll be able to click on and see the solutions, and then you can check yours and see if you did them right. So make sure you try to use a calculator. If you need to use that Desmos calculator, just go to desmos.com.